Hey there everyone, it's Dave and Dan coming to you from Relax Experience for another edition of Fridays with Dan and Dave. G'day mate, good morning, how you doing?
Oh yeah, no, that's nice.
Another big week?
Yeah, big week here. It's starting to warm up now. We've come into spring, so you probably notice the temperature. That's what I do when I'm walking the dog in the morning. How I went from wearing a jumper not long ago, now it's getting warm. Eh?
Mate, it's almost practically beach weather out there. So today we wanted to just have a quick chat about finalising your purchase if you're purchasing off the plan. So as you probably know, this is something we do a fair bit of. So so I thought I'd just hand this over to Dan at the moment to take you through a few things.
Yeah. So when you're getting towards the end of your contract, when obviously we're talking about off the plan here, and the building's getting ready to complete, you've probably been driving past and seeing the scaffolding come down and the building being painted and all those exciting parts. A couple of the things you'll get an opportunity to do at that stage will be to inspect the property. So you'll get most off the plan contracts give you an opportunity to inspect the property twice prior to settlement. Generally, one of those is to allow you to do a bank valuation. So if you've got finance as part of your purchase, which most people do, at that stage the bank would like to get a formal valuation of the property. They'll inspect it themselves or have an independent inspector come through and do that. The other inspection will allow you to check for defects in the property, like a building report, and the builder or the developer rather may have done their own. So you can always check with the developer if they have done one.
And if they have, would you suggest what would you be sort of thinking there?
Yeah, so there's different types of these sort of projects. So some are builder developers, so the builder and the developer are the same entity, and then most, the more common ones probably where it's a developer on a contract build. So in that case, generally the developer, obviously who's paying for the whole project, they'll probably do a very thorough inspection of their own. So it would just depend on your own circumstances and what you see fit at the time.
Would you recommend a buyer walks through and does it on them like on their own, or would you recommend they engage a licensed building inspector?
Yeah, I would always get the inspector. You've got time for the developer to come back and fix those defects, or the builder rather. So I would probably walk through with the inspector and if it's possible, be there at the time that it happens. So the reports often when they come through have a lot of legal jargon in them, but it is nice to be there on the day if you choose to do one. So
yeah, it certainly muddies the waters if you move in first and then identify some things, paint, grout, silicone, tidy up things. Certainly does get interesting then to go back to a builder a month after you've moved in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To say, hey, I found a paint defect.
Yes. Which does happen. But if you have the opportunity to do it earlier, then you're probably saving yourself a bit of hassle in the long run.
Yeah. And if the property developer does their own inspection, should the buyer then try to get a copy of that report from the selling agent if possible?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I'd get a copy of that. I'd take it with you when you visit the property. They may do the little blue dot or yellow dot.
Paint defects.
So when you walk through the property, they may already be in place from that inspection. So you could always check them against that. Otherwise, they're usually pretty detailed, so you can walk around with the report and check it for yourself.
I think it's important also to realise too that in most off-the-plan contracts, the way they're worded around the inspection is there's not necessarily a requirement for the builder to finalise the defects prior to settlement. They do have a period of time in which to do that. So you might move in and then after you've moved in a few weeks later, they've got a painter or some other tradesperson coming in to do the entire building in the space of a few days. So you might find that you move in with a few minor defects. Yeah,
that's pretty typical. I mean, the most common defect we probably see would probably be paint. So
paint, plaster,
little finishing items.
Those 1% things, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it takes a bit of time at the end, but they'll get them right eventually.
Yeah. So once that certificate of classification is issued, the buildings are legally habitable by that point, but you can't settle at that point because there's a couple more steps in the process, and that is that the draft survey plan that would be contained in your disclosure statement with your contract documents, that has to get sealed by the Brisbane City Council or the relevant council that you're buying in, along with the CMS, which is the Community Management Statement. So that process can take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, depending on different factors. And so once that has been done, that is then picked up from council by the surveyor and then handed to the developer's solicitor, who then will lodge that at the Department of Natural Resources, which is a Queensland Government department, and that would take anywhere between a few days and probably a fortnight to then get registered. Once the registration takes place there, the Department of Natural Resources issues a document called a Registration Confirmation Statement, or an RCS, and that RCS looks very much like a title search. It's almost like the first title search done on that particular property. So at that point there, the developer's solicitor will send that over to your solicitor that is acting for you, and they'll call for settlement. Now, there's a legal requirement in Queensland, at least, that the developer can't force a settlement on a buyer until 14 days after that plan is registered. So at that point there, when that RCS is issued, you know you've basically got a fortnight to settle that property. Now, some people do require a little bit longer. If you think you might want more than 14 days to settle, then at the start when you do the contract, talk to your solicitor about what that looks like, and they should even recommend a little bit longer. We often see a 21-day period of settlement as well. So, that's just another way to give yourself a little bit more breathing space before you have to settle and move in. With regards to settlement as well, depending on the size of the complex you're purchasing in, the seller's solicitor or the developer's solicitor may in fact stagger those settlements over a week or 2 weeks or even a month. So be sure to communicate with your selling agent your urgency if you have to move in urgently. If you're coming to the end of a lease or you may have sold a property, you may even consider looking at trying to ask for some sort of an early possession as well. Look, we might just finish up there for today. We'll keep this one pretty short, Jan, for this week.
Yeah.
And we'll catch up with you next time. Thanks, guys.